The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. And they say that Hollywood is running out of ideas, that there's nothing original left in Hollywood, and everything's just a rehash. Where are the new, fresh ideas? Well, Hollywood heard your call, viewers and listeners, because some executive somewhere in a boardroom somewhere just took the biggest, deepest bong rip of their life and went, Pharrell, but make it Lego. And now here we are. I can't believe the trailer I just saw for this Pharrell Williams Lego biopic right before we got on the air here. Got to talk about this with our co-host this week, Elisa Rocktalk. Elisa, how are you?
Okay, so I saw pictures of this and I was like, oh, like Pharrell partnered with Lego to make like a new music video or something. Like,
yeah,
that's
a little quip,
cheeky and cute.
quick
or
clip.
like he's writing the song for the new movie, and so like they made him this is a different thing. Is it?
It is from what I've seen, I think it's Focus Features. And by the way, like, boy, Focus Features has made like a real pivot in the kind of content they're putting out. This ain't your grandmother's Focus Features. I remember when like Focus Features did some like real weird art house stuff.
They were like the A24.
Yeah, it was the A24 of its time. Like, you would tell people you would watch Focus Features because it would make you sound cool, and then you would never actually watch those movies because they were always too weird and freaky. And now they're just like, nope, Lego, Pharrell Williams, we are going to be the brand behind that.
Is this his This Is Me Now, the greatest love story never told, but in Lego form? Is this his Jennifer Lopez?
I mean, it's supposed to be a straight biopic. This isn't like an artsy, weird 70-minute J-Lo thing where you got like Ben Affleck dressed up in funny costumes. Like, this is meant to be, for at least from what I'm inferring from the trailer, a pretty true-to-life biopic, but just everybody's Lego.
Huh.
And why Lego? Like, what kid is playing Lego, like, and pretending they're Pharrell Williams? I don't know. But
do they have the hat?
I mean, yes, oh my God, the merchandising opportunities alone, they're going to make tiny little Pharrell Williams hats. But I don't know who came up with this, but now I need to watch it.
Well, then I need to like step my situation up and get famous so that I can make a biopic in Polly Pocket then.
So you wouldn't want yours as Lego. You want a toy franchise that spoke to your childhood, and you were something of a Polly Pocket fiend in the day.
I was a Polly Pocket girl to the point where when they redesigned Polly Pocket and she no longer fit in your pocket and like the sets like no longer were like portable, I threw a fit because I was like, they are besmirching the entire point of the branding by expanding. It's supposed to be an entire little tiny world that you can take with you and put in your pocket. Her name is Polly Pocket.
If Polly Pocket is not a choking hazard, then it's not really Polly Pocket.
Thank you.
Unless you are putting the children who are playing with said toy at risk, then it's, I mean, those things were really, really tiny. I mean,
they really were. That'll get stuck in your throat, up your nose, like not just the Polly Pocket, but all the little extras that it came with it. That was a moment in time.
I mean, you know, I dabbled in the Mighty Max. Mad Max is very different.
Yes.
Which was basically like, you know, the boy marketed Polly Pocket, because I guess they didn't think little boys wanted to play with Polly Pocket. And I mean, none of those pieces lasted longer than a day for me. Like by the end of it, all I had was just the little compact, and all of the toys were gone.
Yeah,
they were too small
to the
to keep
point
track
where,
of.
like, you know, going through a journey, healing my inner child, I'm like, hey, I'm 38 years old. Let's buy a Polly Pocket for ourselves. To get one that is actually complete, it's so expensive to have one that actually has any of the pieces in it, much less all of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Producer Lauren, could you look up on eBay what it would cost to get a fully intact Polly Pocket from like the 90s?
I think something that's like Moonlight Carnival, because I think that was my favorite one because it lit up.
If we can find Moonlight Carnival, Producer Lauren, that'd be great. I'm going to put the over under, like, you're paying at least $130 for that, would be my guess.
I've seen prices in the 200s.
Oh my God.
For a Polly Pocket, y'all.
Well, I mean, good thing to have access to 38-year-old money to just pay,
well,
whatever costs to get nostalgic with your childhood. Speaking of things that are making me nostalgic, Elisa Rock Dog, I feel like an 11-year-old again because the Florida Panthers are a good hockey team again, which is not something I could say since I was in elementary school.
I'm so excited. We're not doing pots and pans yet. They haven't even played yet. But go Panthers. Wow, wow. I always have to do the sound effect.
Of course.
Whenever I talk about the Panthers. I became a hockey fan in the last couple of years. I am on that bandwagon. I am washing the bandwagon weekly. I'm putting stickers on it. Firmly ensconced in the bandwagon for the Florida Panthers.
Elisa, you were based in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And we came so hilariously close to a Florida-Dallas Stanley Cup final. That would have been a blast.
I would have been even more insufferable than I already am. Can you imagine? I mean, we probably, I mean, there's no way we would have gotten tickets. It would have been the most expensive thing in the world.
Like Polly Pocket expensive for sure.
Polly Pocket expensive for sure. But we would have made an attempt. And considering that Evan has been called to play in front of Dallas Stars games at the arena before, and considering that I am currently singing, career update, spoiler alert, as a substitute for that same band, like if we had a Panthers Stars series, there is a non-zero chance that maybe we could have played one of those home games.
I mean,
but go Panthers.
Even if you didn't get into the band, like you would have hid in Evan's guitar case like Max in a Goofy movie going to the Powerline concert.
Absolutely. Oh no, it would have been too much. That would have been the best. But go Mavs, I guess.
Oh my God. And there's that, like that, the NBA finals, which are tonight as we're recording this.
I am about to like pull up the game on the second screen, but I will not, because I respect the sanctity of the show. This
is a difficult thing for me, because like we're rooting for the Mavs because F Boston, right? Because as any self-respecting Heat fan, but like it's also putting us in the difficult position as Miami sports fans to root for the Dallas Mavericks, the team that beat us in the NBA finals one year. Like that's not exactly a sympathetic figure for a Heat fan.
No, but are any of the people that beat us still walking through that door? I don't think so.
Mark Cuban, I guess.
Not even him.
That's true.
He's, like barely him anymore. So I like Luka. I think he's fun.
I mean, the Eastern European players are inevitably delightful. Just the amazing perimeter shooting despite being 8 feet tall. The tenuous grasp of the English language, but still like says things that are hilarious. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a really fun sports week for us. I'm really hoping for a Panthers Stanley Cup final or Stanley Cup, because it would just be delightful, right? Because Canada cares so much about this.
Oh,
I think I read
yeah.
that 85% of the televisions in Canada are going to be watching every game of the Stanley Cup. And like in Florida, like there are pockets of South Florida that don't even know where the Panthers stadium is. You know?
Correct. Correct.
Like-
it is right next to Sawgrass Mills Mall.
That's right.
By the way.
Cannot name the municipality where the Florida Panthers play. Like,
Sunrise.
yes, Sunrise,
I love
Florida.
how much of a
Exactly.
big point. Like the stank that they put on Sunrise, Florida, whenever they broadcast the games is like, it's not South Beach.
Yep.
It's barely South Florida at
Like,
that point.
I know, like it's closer to Palm Beach County than it is to Miami-Dade County. Like it even seems weird to bang the pots and pans if we win the championship, which by the way, for the outside viewers and listeners, that is a Miami tradition. Your sports team wins. You got to drive down Bird Road in Galloway.
Drive down in Sunrise. What
Right.
road in Sunrise?
And you're supposed to bang pots and pans, but like that's a Miami thing. Like it'd be weird in Broward to bang pots and pans. Like you got to bang your air fryers.
North Broward. Like not even Hollandale. It's North Broward.
Yeah, it is. It's
Not even
exceedingly
Coral
north.
Springs. What are we talking about?
Parkland. So coming up in the second
Highly
segment,
local.
I this is one of these things, Elisa, where sometimes we have a guest comes in that lines up with the co-host perfectly, where I'm like, oh my God, I need to introduce the two of you together because you're going to be besties. And this is one of those weeks because Elisa, joining us in the second segment, we're going to have Muddy Paw PR head Angela Tyler, who's been a friend of the show forever, and yet her path has never really crossed with yours. And that's a shame because you two would just hit it off. You are going to be kindred spirits. She's and by the way, might be a potential career opportunity for you because in addition to running Muddy Paw PR, being a great music publicist, she's actually in the midst of writing her first novel. And so maybe she might need some audiobook narration, something in that realm. And but aside from anything else, she's just super cool. Like she's got a cool vibe. She works with awesome artists. She's going to have some great advice for us, and I know you two are going to hit it off. So that's coming up in the second segment. We're excited for that. We of course have your career update, a monthly tradition when we have you on the show. We're going to definitely do that this segment. But first, Elisa, I wanted to talk to you about an article that I read in Vulture, of all places. Because I thought that even though the article was sort of talking about big-time celebrities, I think there's some lessons in this article that are applicable to indie creators. I think you saw this article as well, right? It's called 21 Ways to Hack Stardom, and it's basically just talking about the new rules that apply to celebrities these days and the things that made people celebrities and sort of the things that we expected of celebrities a generation ago or even when you and I were younger are not the way celebrities operate today. And they said it's called 21 Ways to Hack Stardom, this article. And it talks about like what are the 21 new rules of stardom. I want to talk about some of my favorites with you, Elisa, because I think these new rules are applicable to indie creators because you can look at these new rules and say, okay, I can tailor this to my own experience and how I need to operate as a creator. So I want to talk about rule number one here. So rule number one in this Vulture article was don't worry about the box office.
Yes.
And I want to read here, and I quote, once upon a time in Hollywood, a movie star's only job was to turn a profit at the box office. If one failed in this capacity, they might never be heard from again. Then came streaming and a pandemic, and a third of audiences stopped going to multiplexes. Now, nobody's selling as many tickets as they used to, and theatrical grosses are no longer the most reliable gauge of an actor's appeal. While it's still usually better to be in films that make money, today's stars can survive and sometimes even thrive despite a few bombs. This is why the soft $15 million opening for Zendaya's Challengers caused so little panic, and why Ryan Gosling probably won't be hurt too much by the $28.5 million debut of The Fall Guy, which cost $125 million to make. That is pretty striking, Elisa, right? Because when we were growing up, box office was everything. You know, it's what made Julia Roberts, George Clooney, Will Smith, Jim Carrey the stars that they were, because you knew you could put them in a movie and that movie was grossing 9 figures without
no matter
blinking.
what.
And these days, not only do like movies not do that anymore, but if a star is in a movie that bombs, it's not a big deal. Like Anya Taylor-Joy is not having a particularly good run with Furiosa. She's still going to get lots of gigs after this. Her Q rating's not going down one bit.
Yeah.
As a literal professor of pop culture, what explains this? Why do we no longer why are we no longer worshiping the holy grail of box office receipts when determining who the celebs are?
Well, it's I think because of the advent of social media, it used to be that one of the only ways that you would get access to even seeing these celebrities in the first place would be on that big silver screen. And these subsequent articles in your People magazines and your Entertainment Weeklies, and like that was the access that you had to your stars. But now you have so much access to the people that you watch and enjoy that it's almost like the business is the business, and you don't even necessarily like who cares about box office? I'm not a suit at Warner. What I care about is, can I see it on Hulu or Netflix or something eventually? Two, are the TikTok edits good of this movie? Because I've actually like heard people be like, the TikTok edits of Challengers made me want to see Challengers. And then some people walked out of the theater disappointed because they wanted Tennis Wild Things and didn't get it, but that's fine. That's fine. It got their butts in seats, but not necessarily butts in seats, but eyeballs on the screen. It doesn't necessarily matter that much anymore going to a physical movie theater. I think a lot of people don't even want to pay that much to go out to see something that could come out and be enjoyed in the comfort of their home in a couple of weeks. And there are very few movies that could justify pulling you out of your house. Doom 2, I imagine, is not necessarily in this conversation. But that was probably the best performing movie of the year. To wit, all of our Alamo Draft houses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area are shutting down. The box office doesn't matter anymore. People don't care. It's, are you, throwing it back to the article, are the TikTok edits of your movie good that are going to make you want to watch it on streaming? Are the memes good that come out of it? Are the actors personable when they go eat hot chicken? Those are the things that matter more to the success of an individual actor than the performance of one individual movie anymore.
Have we gotten to the point where these quote unquote movie stars get more recognized and they get more career benefit from appearing in things outside of the film, even for a few seconds, than they do from being in the film itself? I think of somebody like Sydney Sweeney, who, was in Anyone But You with Glenn Powell, which was, by any measure, like a successful movie. It got a lot of publicity. But I think more people might know Sydney Sweeney from being, from portraying like the Hooters waitress on SNL for like one clip than seeing her in the movie with Glenn Powell.
Well, yeah, I mean, she made her mint on Euphoria first, which is, another sort of point in the article that talks about, instead of going to movies, be a part of a really good niche television show first, like a cult classic television show like The Bear or Euphoria. And those kinds of shows can then sort of translate into that kind of stardom. I remember when the uproar over Sydney Sweeney was the same uproar that was over Kate Upton, but that is a conversation for another show. It's like, I remember when the blonde, busty poster child of traditional womanhood was Kate Upton, and then before that, Pamela Anderson. Tale as old as time. But this sort of like niche celebrity thing, it's like, again, it's the TikTok edits, it's the memes, it's the things that can get served up in 30 to 60 second clips that produce an audio for TikTok that you can then lip sync yourself to and be a part of the joke as well. I think that is another kind of key part of it.
That's a scary, or at least shocking, or surprising development in all of this, that just the medium of film is just not built for today's time, where the content we want to consume in quick bites, in short form video. And like, where's the place for a 2-hour film in our landscape?
Now, what is hilarious about that statement is that I just sat my ass down to watch a 4-hour documentary about the rise and fall of the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. It was a 4-hour retrospective on YouTube. You
Everybody's
tell
been
me
talking about
to
this
go sit
video.
through
I
a
need to
Christopher
see
Nolan
this.
movie? Blah. Christopher Nolan? Blah. No, too long. When do I pee? 4 hours by Jenny Nicholson on the Galactic Star Cruiser. Strap me in. Give me my bevs. Let's go. So it's wild. I've heard of people being like, I watch videos like this now to train myself away from the TikTok constant short clips. So it's an interesting tension that we're actually seeing now. Well, vis-a-vis run times and
Yeah.
attention spans.
Now, Elisa, you previously alluded to this new celebrity phenomenon of eating chicken on in YouTube videos, and how it seems like every big star has to eat chicken on YouTube at some point. And the Vulture article talks about this as rule number 5 for how to become a celebrity in today's era, which is eat chicken on camera. Let me read from the article here. Not so long ago, when stars had something to promote, they would have to degrade themselves before print journalists and TV talk show hosts, answering nosy questions about their personal business. Occasionally, this process would knock loose a revealing crumb of information that made a celebrity seem like a human being. But those days are probably over, because now there's an easier way. In 2024, the most powerful promotional venues are online only, have a viral reach larger than their legacy media predecessors, and guarantee friendly treatment of their famous guests. Also, for some reason, they involve eating chicken. Today, the most important stop on any promo tour is Hot Ones, the YouTube series in which subjects are interviewed over a meal of increasingly spicy wings. I've been watching clips from this, just getting obsessed with this, and just what I just read from here is kind of poignant to me, because as I'm watching Hot Ones, the first thing I thought to myself was like, you tell 1998 Mariah Carey that you just booked a gig for her on a series where she has to sit at a table and eat furiously hot wings while talking about the most personal details of her life, and she's going to fire you as her agent immediately. And now I'm guessing if you got her the Hot Ones gig, she'd take that in a second.
Yep.
What is happening?
It's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many cyber trucks Elon Musk has sent you to pose next to. Everybody is taken down by the bomb. The bomb is the great equalizer of us all. It's that Schadenfreude of seeing someone on a pedestal get taken down a peg. It's the reminder that they're human, and that you are closer to them in essence than you think. It's like, yes, we do share the same biology, and it does get wrecked in the exact same way. And it's literally disarming. It's literally a disarming thing. Not just, it's the act of eating is very intimate, and being seen eating on camera, I think is a very intimate and personal thing. But also credit to Sean Evans, because he does his research, he digs deep, and he stays asking questions that none of these people are ever going to get in any of their press junkets too. So like, credit to him for being a great interviewer, along with the extra disarming gimmick. I think it really is good at tearing down people's walls in a fascinating way.
And what is the lesson for indie creators in something like this? That audiences today in 2024 are craving authenticity.
Yeah,
they don't want their
get
celebrities to be
messy.
these inaccessible people on a pedestal anymore. They want to feel real connections with you in a way that they didn't used to.
Absolutely. Like, literally and figuratively, don't be afraid to get a little messy. Don't be afraid to be seen every once in a while, with a little sauce that you got to wipe off your face. The people that dive in, I think it also shows like your ability to not take yourself so seriously. I think I've seen this clip from this one TED talk that keeps getting fed to me by this one waiter that's basically like, I take my job seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. And I think Hot Ones is a good place to show that off, especially for anybody who maybe has like a very constructed, crafted, very intentionally built persona. um we as a sort of unit generation, I think, are craving um a lot of authenticity and a stripping away of artifice. And there is nothing that will make you drop the mask like the bomb. It should be taken to the Hague.
It is
The way
it is a
treats
vicious
people.
swing.
To the Hague.
All right, before we do your career update, there was one more rule from this article that I do think was particularly applicable for indie creators, which was Rule 11. Be a little famous to everybody. Again,
That
from
one
the
was my
Vulture
favorite
article. You like this one too, yeah.
Yeah.
For most of entertainment history, there was only one path to superstardom. You had to get really good at doing one specific thing, then keep doing that thing until it brought you mainstream attention. Now there are limits to how far doing just one thing can take you. Audiences have sorted themselves into algorithmically programmed media bubbles, none quite alike, which makes widespread cultural penetration difficult. Success in a single area, a hit movie or TV show, is no guarantee of broad awareness. If you want to get really big in 2024, you need a diversified approach. This dynamic has inspired plenty of young stars to become multi-hyphenates, but nobody wields their hyphens better than Selena Gomez. That's just a great sentence. Gomez is extremely well known, but not just for one thing and not just for one audience. She's sort of an actress and kind of a singer, but her greatest skill is her ability to spread herself across a wide range of projects and pursuits, strategically choosing far-flung collaborators like Steve Martin and Gucci Mane to maximize her reach. Her professional and social networks make Kevin Bacon's look small, and even your parents have heard of her. There are, because of how segmented and fragmented the audience, the worldwide audience has become, there are probably people out there who only know Selena Gomez as a singer, and there's only people who know her from like Only Murders in the Building, and there's people that only know her from Disney Channel or from merchandise. And I mean, that's a really interesting phenomenon where today, now more than ever, if you want to be ubiquitous, you have to do more than one thing, because if you only do the one thing, you're only going to reach that one segment of people who are into that one thing, and you have to spread yourself out.
I would be surprised if there are people that have Fenty Beauty and Rare Beauty on their faces that have not listened to a single Rihanna or Selena Gomez song, but they wear their makeup.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. The day that Rihanna drops an album, they're gonna be like, why is this makeup person like releasing music all of a sudden? Like fully and completely, it's gonna be that. I love this idea. I think like there is a sort of flip side to that where it's like, don't spread yourself so thin that it's like you're trying to put your name on so many things. Like, I have a makeup line, and now I have a sparkling alcoholic beverage with my name on it. Now I have canned coffee, but it's like, wait, what do you actually care about? So I think the good thing about both Selena Gomez and Rihanna, which I think are like great examples of this point, is that the stuff's good.
Yeah.
The stuff's good and it's quality, it lasts, and you can tell that they actually care, and it comes from potentially a need that they themselves have had, like Fenty with their shade range, Selena Gomez, Rare Beauty. The packaging is incredible and very accessible for people with different motor skills issues and stuff. And the blush is incredible. The liquid blush is great. So, it's yes, be famous in a lot of different things. I would definitely caution though is to like not throwing your name on literally everything to the point where people are like, okay, well, this is just another cash grab, because I see that too.
Well, you do need to have still have to have a unified brand and a unified message across these things. Like, people need to know that it's the same person behind all of these things. And if spreading yourself thin means that you're losing that cohesive thread between all these different empires, then that's going to be a problem. But I see this as a great development for indie creators because who more than indie creators are well positioned to be multi-hyphenates? If you are a big star, if you're signed to a record label, it's really hard to be nimble. You're an aircraft carrier. It's hard for you to turn. And you have like big content companies that are going to get in the way if you decide to wake up one morning and say, oh, I want to, create a line of merchandise now, or I don't want to put out another album. I want to create a YouTube series or something like that. Indie creators are speedboats. They can turn in different directions. They can create the many hyphens without having to ask for permission. So this is a positive development for me.
Absolutely. It's, it's making sure, because I'm the kind of person who will have like you give me any time and I will fill it with some sort of hobby and some sort of like niche thing that I'm into today. And I see that and I get so excited and at the shiny of like, oh, I'm gonna do music, but then I'm also gonna do this thing, but then I'm also gonna do this thing. It's like, just yes, but don't burn yourself out. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything.
Well, speaking of multi-hyphenate creators that we love around here, every month that we have you on the show, we relish the opportunity. We relish the opportunity to check in on the things that you have going on. You always have really cool career developments in your own life that you want to share with us. And so let us now, before we go to break, get a little Elisa Rockdock career update.
How am I gonna pay my rent today? Is my
Producer Lauren, did
is
we
my
get that in the
placeholder.
clear? Because that might be the theme song right there. Also, did we get it? Did we figure out what the price point is on the Polly Pocket yet? The world needs to know.
I'm just gonna do the da 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 da. How am I gonna pay my rent today?
How am I gonna pay my rent today? Well, today, it's audiobooks. My audiobooks are coming out. I may have spoken in previous shows about the recording process of the audiobooks, but now at least one of them has released. It is out into the world, and you can listen to it right meow. It's called The Redemption of Dia Keene by Gia Gordon. It is young adult fiction talking about a wonderful girl named Dia growing up in a very small town and navigating being in a small high school in a relatively religious community as a queer girl coming up in the world and trying to figure herself out. And it was absolutely a pleasure to read. Another one on the long list. I feel so blessed to be able to read all of the books that I wish I had when I was growing up. So being able to pay that forward and hopefully, give other girls and guys, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful beach read this summer. And then there's another book that is available for pre-order, comes out July 2nd. NDA. You, me, and the listening public. We are the only ones who know.
Just keep this between you, me, and the 33 million
us.
Sirius XM
Just between
subscribers.
us. It is called Break to You. By multiple authors, actually. And this one is especially cool. And I rarely, because I'm a fan of the written word, I rarely say like, this is going to be better than the book because let me respect the authors. But this is a cool one because it takes place in a juvenile detention facility that's split by gender. And so I read half the book as one of the protagonists and someone else reads the other side of the book. And it's basically the story of a girl, Adriana, who has a journal that she keeps in this facility. One day her journal goes missing. And when she finds it again, somebody else has written to her in it. And then it's the process of passing the journal back and forth. But because of that nature, in the audiobook, you're reading basically us talking to each other back and forth. Our perspectives mix sometimes within the same chapter. So it's not even like a very clean cut, like me, then him, then, So I think it's going to be a great experience once it's cut all together. It's one of the more difficult ones I've done because it was so scattered across chapters. But I think once it comes together, it's going to be a really, really cool experience to listen to. So those are two of my audiobooks that I have coming out.
That's so exciting. And as you noted, you're starting to kind of pile up the credits in this medium. This is
I'm SAG eligible now for audiobooks.
Hey. That's very, very cool. Yeah. See, yeah, now that they're all done picketing and fighting for the rights, here you come to join the union, not having to shed any of the blood. Just
No, I literally got the email the day the strike started.
that's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
But have you found that, like, as you've piled up more of these, like, the opportunities tend to come faster because you can sort of show them, here's the resume, and so maybe you don't have to pound the pavement as hard as you used to?
Hey, that's one of the beautiful things, shouts to indie creators, but one of the best things about being an agented actress is, yes, I do find that I am getting more. So it was sort of like, a couple of years ago I had 1 audiobook, last year I had 2, now I have 3. So it's and it seems like every year around like November, December, I start getting like the itch, like, ooh, I hope that they send me, something to read next spring for summer. And so far they have. And I hope it keeps happening, because I love reading to you as a collective. And I hope you enjoy my voice.
I mean, we really do. For those who have not had the pleasure of listening to one of Elisa Rockdock's narrations, and maybe this is just me, like a product of knowing her, like, and knowing how she's grown up and everything.
You've had to hear me talk for decades.
She really does give the life to these characters, because obviously, even though she didn't write the book, she's often narrating characters in which she shares a great deal of life experience with them, and so you really do kind of get taken and transported to that character and what they're going through in a way that I think is just really, really terrific. And it makes for the book's already great, but, Elisa Rockdock adds a whole other layer to the experience of consuming the book that just makes it really, really special to listen to. Producer Lauren, I know you've been sort of gathering the links of Elisa's book projects
keep selling
here.
me to the guest. Hell yeah.
Let's make sure that we can, get those in the show description, and so people can check them out. It's going to be an absolute blast. All right. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with Angela Tyler from Muddy Paw PR. It's going to be awesome. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. I'm going to sound like Ebenezer Scrooge when I say what I'm about to say right now, but Spotify is raising its prices, and all I can say in response to that is good. The next thing they have to do is get rid of the free tier, because we need to get more revenue into that platform so that the folks who are creating music for that platform can actually earn some decent money on it. Artists are effectively subsidizing Spotify right now with how affordable, with how cheap it is, and the fact that there's a free tier. Like, it doesn't mean that like Spotify is making less money. It means that artists are making less money. We need to get more revenue into that platform. And so I know I sound like all evil and stuff because prices are going up, but ultimately it's good for artists. Ryan Kairalla here with Elisa Rockdock.
I was going to say, counterpoint, free with ads means more work for me.
Oh, well, okay. So that's a good point. All right. So let's Let's all right, so
Wanna
we can
break
have
some
some
ads?
let's get some ads in there only because I want to get Elisa Rockdock in the studio with Clem Fandango to,
I hear
record
you.
some commercials. I can't be the only one that's been getting a bunch of Stephen Toast clips on YouTube lately or
I
on
can hear
TikTok
you, Ryan
lately.
Kairalla.
Thank you. There you go.
Wanna break from the ads?
But Ryan Kairalla here with Elisa Rockdock, just having a whale of a time with you. Thank you for checking us out on volume.com and SiriusXM 145 and Twitch and YouTube and wherever you're checking us out. We're so darn glad that you are. Let's go ahead and bring out our guest this week.
Angela's coming for the break. Get ready for the wisdom take. PR magic in a hat. Break the business where it's at. Listen close, you just might learn. Her career tricks, time to turn. Got the secrets up her sleeve. In her stories you'll believe. Angela's
Our guest this week is the head of music marketing and press agency Muddy Paw PR. She's a sought-after voice on music PR and has spoken at major conferences, including South by Southwest. You can also check out her writing on her Substack page, as well as her new fiction novel coming soon. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.weremp.co. We are happy to welcome back our friend Angela Tyler on to Break the Business. Hi, Angela.
Hi, I'm sure you get this all the time, but I wish you could just go everywhere with me and just like introduce me to people by all the names. That's amazing.
Bless you. You deserve every bit of fanfare. We have so much fun when you join us. You've been around this particular menagerie since the beginning, and we just appreciate the way you've supported the show as a publicist, bringing us amazing guests, as a voice on this program, sharing great insight. We're where we are because of the great stuff that you've done for us, and so we relish any opportunity to be chatting with you.
I mean, stop. Thank you. Stop.
While I have you here, so I want to introduce Angela, Elisa Rockdock, Angela. I feel like you two would just hit it off and be complete besties. This is awesome that I'm able to connect you all together.
I'm
I know, I'm really
excited.
excited. I am too. I know. I was watching from backstage, and I was listening to all your stuff, and I was like, I don't know. I don't want to monopolize the show, but I'm gonna 100% reach out after because there were so many things you were talking about the audiobook, and I was thinking about how many audiobooks I've listened to that the book was not as good, and then I listened to the audiobook, and it was so much better, and I was like, that's probably you're probably that person. So yeah, it's very cool to meet you.
And speaking of things worth celebrating, Angela, Muddy Paw PR has recently celebrated its 10th anniversary. We're pretty stoked about that. Curious, over the 10 years that you've been working with artists, helping get press and PR out there, how has this industry changed the most during this time?
So much. This is so funny. Like I used to ask this even before Muddy Paw, when I had my music blog and I would interview people in the industry. I would ask them this question. I'd be like, "You've been in the industry for 20 years. How has it changed?" But like now that's me. I feel so old.
Oh no.
But no, it's changed so much. I was thinking about this because like when I started, I mean, this was 2014 that I started the PR company. And like blogs were like like that was the main source. Yeah, she's like, I know, I remember. Like it was the main thing, and it meant something, right? Which is not to say it doesn't now. Like I still very much believe blogs have a place. It's just expanded, but like it used to be that you got a band on a blog and it meant something, right? And like you set up premieres, and now premieres are not only mostly ineffective, but they're like a huge pain. And it used to be that these things really moved the needle, and now kind of look at blogs as like an asset with everything else. So at least from a PR perspective, where that was like the main thing, now just over the years it's had to be introduced so many things. So it started by like, okay, well now we're going to introduce playlists, which I could go on and on about that, and like the artist obsession with playlists and how I don't think it's the be all end all. And then it was like, but we're introducing that, and then it's like, okay, well now we have to introduce influencer marketing. And also, it's not enough to just start a PR campaign. It's like you have to have a whole. I mean, I always had to have a strategy, but now like the band has to have a strategy around it, and we have to like really dig deep into their brand, and it's just become so much more about the whole economy that surrounds the artist, even an indie artist, right? Before a PR campaign can be as effective as it needs to be. Whereas 10 years ago, it was like, hey, I have some new music, let's get it out there. Simpler days, I guess you could say.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. What are some of the tune-up steps that a client of yours has to do now before you can even be in a good position to do your job? This is something I often hear from publicists, by the way, where they go, I don't have much, like, you need to get your website together. Like, your socials are a mess. Like, I go to your website, there's no contact information. How are, like, your gigs aren't up here. How are people supposed to find you after I help you get this press? Like, how much of your work is just getting your client's house in order?
So much, so much. And I'm like, I'm glad you said it. There's a quote that I do not remember exactly what it is, but it's something about how PR amplifies what is already out there. Like, it amplifies the existing efforts. And I think that's a really important one for people to remember, because I do think there is this misconception where either people think PR is completely useless, and usually that's because they've either had a bad experience, or more likely they don't really understand it, or that you pay somebody to make all your problems go away, and they're going to get you on whatever outlet you want, and like a million Spotify streams, whatever. And really, neither of those things are true. And part of it is because, like you said, a lot of people are coming into it just not really understanding what needs to happen. So from my end, I mean, yes, there's all the basic stuff, right? Like, I want to be able to find your contact information. I would like for you to be playing shows. I would certainly like for the music to be high quality, and to know what genre it is, and for your press photos to match. You know, like, if you're a folk band, I don't maybe want to see you like angry under a bridge. Like, that's going to be confusing if your press photos are super dark and your music is very airy, right? So like, there's a lot of those type of things that are happening. Having a bio, just all your basic assets. But even more than that, it's having a strategy and knowing what you're actually going after, because I find that a lot of artists are still extremely vague on what it is that they actually want. You know, they kind of think it's enough to say, like, well, I want to make music my full-time career, or I just want to pay my bills off music. And that feels like sort of tangible and like enough. But the problem is that, how do you work towards that? Like, what are those goals that you're working towards, right? So one of the things we do when we start a PR campaign is, like, we send them a Q&A, get a sense of who they are. And because a lot of times if you ask, you know, what's your brand? They're like, music. I don't know. I like, this is my music. I play pop punk or whatever. And that's not a brand, right? That's just the genre. So it starts with the Q&A, getting a sense of who they are, what angles I can use outside of the music. You know, are they health nuts? Okay, well, maybe now we can pitch them to health outlets, you know, stuff like that. Just getting a sense of who they are, and what they actually want. And a lot of times I found that what the Q&A does is it allows me to read between the lines, so that even if they can't articulate what they want and what they care about, I can. And then I can go back to them and be like, is this right? Does this sound right? And, you know, and then we kind of go from there. But yeah, that's what people don't understand. And when I say, like, you know, ideally we want to start a campaign 6 weeks ahead of a release, like, that sounds crazy, but that's because there's so much prep work. If I had it my way, I'd start like 3 months ahead. I understand that's not realistic. Although I will say that's what PR companies outside of the music industry do.
Yep.
But like, I'll take 6 weeks if you give it to me. Like, I'll make it work. So that is a really long-winded answer to your question, but it's a really good question, because I do think that there's just a huge misunderstanding out there about what even goes into it.
Well, as you were talking about this process of, like, having the client fill out a questionnaire so you can learn more about them, it reminds me of something that you wrote in Hypebot recently. You wrote an article about how to run an effective PR campaign on a shoestring budget. And you talked about helping a client try to identify what you call their unique value proposition, or UVP. And so is part of what you're trying to do in that questionnaire process figure out what that unique value proposition is?
Yes, exactly. Again, like, I think there's this idea that if the music is good enough, that's their thing, right? Like, well, we make great music. What else do you want? But unfortunately, it's not, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And there's so much more that goes into that. So having that something unique about yourself, which I know, like, unique value proposition, it sounds very fancy and corporate, but it really just means what makes you stand out. And that is what the Q&A does. That's what it does for me. But if you're doing it yourself, you just kind of have to look at yourself and say, what is that thing that people are always telling me? You know, like, are they always coming up to me like, oh my God, this is the best live show I've ever seen. I've never seen a fog machine like this at a lot. Like, that's unique, right? Or if they're like, I've never seen, I don't know, jazz and electronic music fused together this way. Like, maybe that's your, you know, unique value. Like, it's kind of finding that thing that helps you stand out. And sometimes it's very obvious and sometimes it's not. But everybody has one. And it's probably one of the toughest parts of the job, especially if you're doing it yourself and not working with somebody. And it's daunting. And so it's easy to skip over, but it is 100% one of the most important things you can do. Because if you skip it, it then becomes very difficult to actually stand out and not only get press, but like get management attention, get label attention. Because if you can't articulate why anyone should care beyond the music, it's it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, it kind of like gets to the idea of like, and I take an acting class and there's so much of this that overlaps, you know, talking about pictures and it's like, yeah, like your headshots have to look like the person that's gonna walk on set, or else we're gonna have a problem. But the idea of like, yes, you have your art, you have your craft, you have, you know, this music and this artistic point of view, but it's also a business, right? So when you mention like UVP, it's like, oh, this it's like corporate speak. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, it's like you have to think about that. It's really, really easy as an artist to just be on autopilot. And it's like, I'm just going to keep playing shows until the venues get bigger.
Well, it's hard, right? So it's like, of course you don't want to. You spend 20 minutes thinking about it, your head wants to explode, and suddenly you think like, that's okay. Like I get it. It's with any creative endeavor, but yeah, you got to do it. Like I wish there was an easy way around it. You've got to do it, or you've got to hire someone to do it for you. But you definitely can't skip that step. Ultimately, you will hit a wall without it.
Do you find that in the process of bands going through that questionnaire that it almost becomes this like, oh, I didn't know that's what I wanted, or like they feel like more focused after going through the process?
Yes, that's one of the most fun parts. A lot of times, I always send it to them, and I'm like, it probably looks awful, right? 'Cause it's long. Like it's going to take them a bit of time if they're doing it properly. And I mean, they really do come back. A lot of times, artists will come back and say that was a lot of fun, or I really enjoyed learning this about myself. And like that's how I get it, because that's also how I always feel with writing, you know. And I'll be writing something like I didn't know I felt that way. So it makes sense, but it's because you're forcing yourself to sit down and actually think about it. And I don't know. I think there is something. I know some publicists kind of prefer to have these phone calls. I'm an introvert, so like I automatically don't want to have a phone call with anybody. However, I also think there's a value to the writing because you have time. I don't know. There's just something about the way that the information is processed that it does seem to work really well for people.
I'd like to chat with you, Angela, with the time we have left, about your own writing journey, because this to me has just been like a yet another fascinating evolution for you for as long as I've known you. The fact that you're doing so much writing now. And I do want to talk about your novel, but first I want to talk about your Substack, Coffee and Nostalgia, and see if I can engage you on a topic that I think both you, me, and Elisa might have some perspective on, which is what you call in a recent Substack article that you wrote, your 1/3 life crisis, and what it has meant about coming to terms with what it means for you to be in your 30s. Because I'm going to read from your article here, because what you wrote here really spoke to me, and I think it's going to speak to Elisa too. Quote, "For a long time, I thought that being in your 30s meant growing up. And to me, that meant Ann Taylor, office job, full salary, and reading and watching shows that maybe made my eyes glaze over, but would make me sound smart. It meant stepping into a role that I had spent my whole life fighting. It turns out I had it right all along. Working for myself, traveling, a touch of spontaneity, nose rings. Those aren't the markings of a 20-something-year-old. They're just the markings of a person who knows who they are and wants to show the world how they feel. They're the markings of me. And finally, I think I'm starting to come back to myself." Now, that's powerful to me. And when I hear those words, I also see Elisa Rockdock in those words, because I feel like that's been your lived experience as well, Elisa. You know, living your 30s on your own terms and not feeling like you have to follow a particular path and just, pursuing the things that you're passionate about. So, love to get both your perspectives on this. But Angela, can you talk to us a little bit about this journey of where you are with this right now?
Yeah, that was so cool. I've never heard it read back. It wasn't half bad. So yeah, I mean, it's been a mess, right? Like I love turning 30. I'm going to be 36 next month, which is a very scary age because it's like just be closer to 40.
Ah.
But like it's just been terrifying, and it's been weird, and I think all of this happening, sort of like entering my 30s during the pandemic years,
Mhm.
right? Like when things were that was really strange too, because it's this time of, like everything was changing. I was panicked, I was very stressed, and then, you get into these questions like, do I want to be in the music industry? I've been in it this long. Does it still love me? Do I still love it? Are we a good couple? And then it kind of navigating that, and then like what else would I even do, because I've spent my whole life doing this, and kind of learning to figure out like, okay, as I think it's always the case for me, it's not it's not necessarily wanting to pivot away from something, it's getting back to why I started doing it in the first place. It's like kind of like I was saying there, it's very easy to, I don't know, like fold into, and they're not even real like outside pressures, just personal pressures of like, aren't you too like there's all these really young, amazing people doing things. I want to be like the old lady in the back of the concert. You know what I mean? It's really weird feeling when I look back at these pictures of myself with like pink hair when I was 20
Mhm.
something, and I'm just having all these crises. So I feel like I'm having crises talking about it. But I think you can understand where I'm coming from, where it's just been such a like, what does growing up look like? And it's really, I went through all these phases, and at the same time, what do you want your life to look like? You're in your mid 30s. Do you want kids? Do you not? Because you got to figure it out now. And like, where do you want to live? And getting married in the midst of all that. And so it's just a real mess. But the really interesting thing about it is like all the turmoil to go through to ultimately end up essentially exactly back where I was, which is re-piercing my nose, cutting my hair again, putting it back to the dark brown it was and my natural color, and going back to like what I always used to wear, which is a tank top and jeans. So ultimately, it was like several years of what feels like unnecessary struggle, but I know I kind of had to go through to get here. Um, and I think I joke in that article, like, you should just cut your hair and pierce your nose. And that was like a true thing, because it's kind of these silly, simple things. We put all this pressure on ourselves of these big accomplishments. And it's like, just cut your hair and pierce your nose. You know what I mean? Like, just do the easy, quick thing. And seriously, like, you're going to, because that's how you kind of come back to yourself, at least for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
I
most
mean, like
creatives.
the world is a different place than when our parents bought their houses for $30.
I know.
And and so because of that, like the traditional, like, all right, so I'm going to go to school and then get a job and then maybe find my partner in college or at the job or at the bar after the job, and then we get married and then we have kids. And it's all of this, especially, so a woman growing up in her 20s in the video game industry, relatable content, of living in your 20s, trying to please other people and trying to figure out all of the unwritten rules that you're supposed to follow in this life, and realizing, wait, why did they get, I thought, wait, no, I thought I was doing everything right. Wah! And then in your 30s, it's realizing that, like, oh, it was all a lie. You told me to sell stuff.
No,
Gotcha.
I know.
And yeah, it's the like age is whatever. It's, what we got is hindsight and back pain now.
So much back pain all the time. I am the most active I've ever been in my whole life. I'm not kidding you. So and like I hurt more than I ever have. Like,
Absolutely.
what's the
Absolutely.
point?
Can't eat the same stuff you used to
I
without it.
know. So
Whatever.
unfair.
But wisdom is what we get for this.
God, at least we have that, I guess. Sort of.
It's wisdom and hindsight. It's valuable.
Our guest has been Angela Tyler of Muddy Paw PR. You can find out more about her work by visiting wearemp.co. Real quick before we get to our final question, can you tell us a little bit about your new novel that you're putting together? I love this, like, new edition of you. The Angela Tyler novelist sounds awesome to me. What got you interested in wanting to write a novel? How's the novel coming along?
Okay, I'll try to keep this short, and I'll try to describe it well, because it's like, so I loved it when you were describing the audiobooks that you've been doing, because I was like, it's so hard to describe. I wrote this whole book. I can't tell you what it's about. So like, what got me into it? I don't know. I did the NaNoWriMo thing. I have never done it before, which if you don't know, it's where you are committed to write, I don't know, like 50,000 words, bad words in a month. And
Jeez.
I did that, and I know they're not good. Okay, they're not meant to be good. And I was like, I don't know. I just started down. I was like in a coffee shop that I really liked, and I started writing. And then somehow I just got it in my head, and I'd always wanted to, but all through college, like I could never finish anything. I would get so bored with everything, and I was just like, I could never finish a book. So I assumed I would never do it. And then I don't know. It's sort of like, it sounds so lame to be like inspiration struck, but just did. And it started off as something totally different. I mean, I spent like 4 months writing this whole other book before I found in one chapter what I actually wanted to write about. I had a friend read it, and she was like, I think this is actually the story you want to tell. Like, you're right, it is, because it's the best written part of the whole thing. So then I started redoing the whole thing. And I mean, long story short, I like wrote this whole book in about, I think, like 7 months. And I was like every new author, I was like, it's ready. It's as good as it can be. Went and started querying, which is like when you're looking for agents. And I was like, it's so great ever. And there's like a lot of bad books, not to be like, but there is. And like, I was like, it's going to go great. And like, so I want to go the traditional publishing route. And like, long story short, it was like really not ready. It was just not. And like all these rejections, and I cried a lot. And I was like, why am I so terrible? Felt really bad for myself. Hired somebody to kind of go through a developmental editor, tell me what was wrong with it. And have spent the last, I don't know, this whole year really, because I got those edits back in December, just revamping it, like, and now I can't unsee all the things that were wrong with it, and it's a million times stronger. And so it's been a really exciting, humbling process, but I have to say it's been the most fun. It's been so much fun. It's like starting the business was 10 years ago, in terms of just like loving to get lost in it, and the creativity, and like I really like who knows what'll make the final cut, but like all these little inside jokes that are really honestly just for me, but like, I love putting them in there. But like real quick, the way I would describe it, because I do think if it ever gets published, when it gets published, your audience will appreciate this, which is just that it is, I mean, my experience is in the music industry. I actually did not want to make the music industry a big part of this book, but I kept getting feedback, because I guess it's really exciting to people that aren't in it. They're like, it's very glamorous. Like, okay. So it's kind of, it's kind of like, I didn't think it was a rom-com, but it turns out it is. I thought it was going to be women's fiction. It's not. It's a rom-com. So it's kind of like, and it's adult rom-com, kind of set in the 2010 music industry, which is when I came up in it. And yeah, it's just like after a summer fling, these two exes find themselves working side by side at this like prestigious music industry startup. And there's like a little bit of a love triangle that ends up happening with her boss, and it's like kind of a slow burn, friends to lovers with the boss. It's very light, funny, like coming of age, but for adults, like for your early 20s. Kind of like, I don't know, Almost Famous is an old reference, but it's definitely got Almost Famous vibes. But yeah, it's kind of like an adult coming of age rom-com set in the music industry.
I love this already. I'm already excited. When this gets closer to getting into the world, please let us know, both so that we can read it and celebrate it with you, have you come on the show, talk about it, allow Elisa to make a pitch to be the narrator for it.
Yeah. And then I'll audition for the Hallmark movie that's going to be optioned from it.
I mean, that's my dream.
You know
how many Hallmark movies I've seen? Like when somebody said rom-com, I was like, well, duh, like how many hours have I wasted on the Hallmark channels?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already loving the trajectory for this.
Exciting.
All right, Angela, before we let you go, we got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Yes. So I probably said this every time I've been on here, but my number one advice continues to be to build relationships forever and always. But besides building relationships, I think that's where all your time should go. I think number two, accepting help, right? Whether it's a friend, whether it's somebody reaching out, do your due diligence, but accept help, This is not the place to be prideful or have an ego. And number three, kind of like we were talking about, just have a plan. It doesn't have to be a grandiose plan. It's probably better if it's not. Honestly, it's probably better if it's a small plan, a 3-month goal versus a 1-year goal. That is my tidy advice.
Perfect.
Well said. Our thanks to Angela Tyler, Elisa Rockdock, producer Lauren, and thanks to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. Mwah! Much love. We'll see you next week.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power in the creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.